Hey guys, Josh here, and I want to talk to you today about something pretty serious. I want to talk to you about something that affects not only myself, but thousands of people worldwide, and that is clinical depression, or major depressive disorder. It's the same disorder, just got a couple different names. Clinical depression is a disorder. It's not a complex, and it's not an attitude. It's not something you choose to have. It's something that's actually wrong with you. In this video, I'd like to discuss some of the symptoms of depression, my own experience with depression, and how I cope with my depression. I'm hoping that if you maybe have a friend with depression and you don't really know what they're going through or how to approach them, just to help you out, just kind of explain to you what's going on, and maybe they don't want to talk about it, and that's fine. You know, a lot of times people with disorders don't like discussing them because they're really hard to explain because it's not something that can usually be helped just with words. You know, you can't just talk it out and make it go away most of the time. So it's frustrating a lot of the time to maybe try to explain it over and over and over. And usually with things like depression, people don't want to accept that it can't be helped. So um, discussing things with people, just it's not always conducive. Now, the symptoms of depression can be sadness, which is the obvious one. The sadness from depression usually doesn't have a cause or a trigger. It's just a constant, droning, heavy sadness that just doesn't go away, and it's awful. Other symptoms of depression can include weight loss and weight gain. Changes in appetite can also affect your weight loss and weight gain because if you're eating more, you're probably going to gain some weight. If you're eating less, you'll probably lose a bit of weight. It can also include headaches, digestive problems. Insomnia and hypersomnia are both attributed to depression, so it can be one or the other, or both alternating. There's so many little symptoms that go along with depression, and a lot of times they intermingle, um, and also a loss of interest in things that maybe were once incredibly fun. Maybe they don't do it for you anymore, and that can also be another symptom of depression. There's a, there's probably more symptoms than that. You can look them up online, but uh, everyone's experience with depression is a little different because there's so many symptoms and because you can have any combination of these symptoms and still be diagnosed with depression. So it's hard to just look up uh, the disorder and then try to understand what your friends are going through because you don't necessarily know what they're going through. They could have a completely different set of symptoms, and it'd still be the same disorder. Um, the one thing that every case of depression has in common, though, is that it hurts. It hurts badly and it hurts often. And sometimes it gets even worse than it normally is for extended periods of time. Some people have major depressive episodes, which is where they get just really heightened symptoms for up to, I think it's 2 weeks to years at a time. It can be really confusing and really overwhelming when you first get into it. But depression is it's awful, and a lot of times it can lead to thoughts of suicide or even the actual act. And if you feel like you might have depression, go seek medical attention because you matter. You matter as a person. You matter as a human being. You are unique. There's nobody else like you. And I know that sounds hokey, but it's true. I mean, there's not really anyone else that's exactly like you. No matter how hard you try, you know, you may find somebody that's close, but then you go out to a restaurant and he'll hate the foods you like, and then it's like, what? I thought we were exactly the same. No, no, there's nobody just like you, and you always have something to offer the world, even if you think you don't. You can write, or maybe you can't. Maybe you can't write. Maybe you can't draw. There's something that you can offer the world, even if it's not something artistic, even if it's not something physical. There's still something you can offer the world, You just gotta find it, and a lot of times just accepting that can really help get you through some tight spots because you know that you are important. You're important to the people around you, and you have something to offer. There's no way of really knowing what's going to help until you just try everything. So just keep trying. Just keep trying everything you can until you find something that sticks, because you are important, you are lovely, and there is no one else like you on this earth. There are 7 billion people, and not another one of them is just like you. I've had depression my entire life. I think they started me on antidepressants when I was 4. I used to think that it made me a bad person, maybe because, you know, other people are enjoying things all the time, and then I can't sometimes, and I just feel really bad sometimes. And I used to blame myself for that, and I would just get really. I used to hate myself a lot. Um, and it's hard because just being sad all the time. I mean, it affects schoolwork, it affects relationships, it affects maybe relationships with your family members too. I mean, it's really tough. And sometimes, I get so down that I can't even get out of bed in the morning, or I really consider suicide. And luckily, I haven't gotten that down in quite some time, but I know not everyone's as lucky, and some people are down like that all the time. Um, if you've got a friend that's depressed, I mean, the first thing you should do is accept the fact that you may not be able to do anything. Uh, but always remind them how important they are to you. It may sound like you're just, inflating their egos, and maybe you are a bit, but it helps. A lot of times, I know personally, I feel absolutely worthless when I'm down. So just try to stay with them. Um, and just accept that maybe there's not anything in particular that you can do to help, but just stay with them. If you're physically with them, give them lots of hugs. Hugs are good. They're always good. When I get really down to the point where I'm considering suicide, I just find something to focus on, anything at all. Because if I'm playing video games, then I know I'm not going to hurt myself because I've got that instead, and I'm just focusing entirely on that. And maybe that's not the best advice, but just focusing on something can really, really help. Uh, and if you've got a friend who's also, getting that far down, try to keep them occupied. Maybe invite them to do something with you. Um, just stay with them. Just keep talking to them. Because again, if they're talking, they're not hurting themselves. Uh, and maybe the next day they won't be so down. There's no telling. It might be a week before they're feeling well again. But you just gotta stay with them.